Hello, everyone. Welcome back to 3 News Now. I'm Stephanie Haney. It's Friday, July 31st. Thanks for being here for the top headlines from WKYC.com and our WKYC app. It's the end of the week. It's the end of the month. Time is flying by. I can hardly believe it. I'm so glad you're here. We'll get you all caught up with everything you need to know here in Northeast Ohio to tackle your Friday and head into the weekend. First of all, I just want to say a quick thank you to everyone who sent well wishes for my dog, Mr. Harry Winston the Puggle. He had surgery this week and he returned home yesterday, and he is doing well and he is recovering. So thank you very much for all of those love and well wishes. It's a very happy day here in the Haney house. All right, here's what we're going to be getting you filled in on today.
Could you please repeat what you said?
You might have just heard Siri from my other phone, so sorry about that if you heard that in the background. Here's what we're going to fill you in on today.
Having trouble hearing you. Sorry about that.
Still talking over there. Okay, we're going to be talking about that rule passed about that bar update and how now restaurants and bars will be required to stop selling liquor at 10 p.m. We'll fill you in on what to expect on that coming up next today. Also, where we stand on a new stimulus package. We are very close to the end of the week. There is still no agreement, and we do not expect a vote to come on that today. And those federal unemployment boost benefits did run out this week, so we'll let you know what is happening with that. Also, there have been more Major League Baseball games postponed. We are 1 week into this shortened season, and there is a lot of shuffling around happening there. We'll bring in 3 News Sports Analyst Ben Axelrod to fill us in on what's going on with that and how it impacts Cleveland, because it does impact Cleveland this time. And finally, we'll let you know where you can catch a virtual forum with the Cleveland Cavaliers leadership on social justice, racial equality, and positive change that extends, of course, off the court. First up, something that people are going to be thinking about a lot today because it's Friday, and if you are someone who has been going out to bars and restaurants, this just might impact you. The Ohio Liquor Control Commission did approve a rule this morning during its emergency meeting to ban alcohol sales at bars and restaurants after 10 p.m. So what that means is they will have to stop selling at 10 p.m., last call at 10 p.m., drinks off the table by 11 p.m. People will have an hour to finish their drinks, apparently. This passed unanimously by a vote of 3-0. So 3 people on that board determined this, and now Governor Mike DeWine is expected to put an executive order into place today that's expected to take effect tonight. Now, at the meeting, bar employees, owners, and attorneys for bars and restaurants told the board that punishing everyone for the acts of a few bad actors for not following health orders was completely unfair, and it would be very detrimental to their businesses. Governor Mike DeWine said yesterday that he is definitely mindful of the economic impact of these kinds of circumstances, but they have to do something to slow the spread of COVID-19. So he's expected to sign an executive order today that will put that into effect tonight. Now, Columbus, earlier, they had passed an ordinance that would close bars at 10 p.m., not even just stopping the sale of alcohol at 10 p.m., but just straight up closing at 10 p.m. But that did not go into effect because bar and restaurant owners sued to stop its enforcement. So now that's been put on hold until that lawsuit would be settled. But this executive order would take precedence over that, and that would go into effect. There is also some rumblings, though. We do expect to see some legal challenges to this, if not immediately, certainly in the very near future, because they've already done it in the city of Columbus. Edward Hasty, who is one of the attorneys representing those businesses, told the board at the emergency meeting this morning that this rule is taking a hammer to something that requires a scalpel. So basically he's saying this approach is overbroad, it's too much, it's not necessary to do what it is they're trying to do. Now, all of this is happening in the context of the fact that yesterday we saw 1,700 new daily reported cases of COVID-19, according to the Ohio Department of Health. Now, that doesn't mean there were 1,700 new positive tests yesterday because there's a delay on this information getting out to us from the Ohio Department of Health, but that is the largest single-day, 24-hour reported increase that we have seen throughout the entire pandemic here in the state of Ohio. Now, a lot of people are criticizing this move. Online, people are wondering what, COVID-19 spreads more easily after 10 p.m.? What exactly does this really do here? But DeWine basically said to shut things down again would be absolutely devastating. So that's not what's happening here. This is sort of a compromise short of closing down again. He talked about how bars are revolving doors and how inhibitions get lowered when people are drinking alcohol. Seems like his thinking here is if we can move that time up, people will be less inclined to spend more time at bars and that sort of thing, and have less people be coming in contact with lots of people. Again, the businesses are not in favor of this. They say that this will devastate them and will cause employee layoffs, which brings us to our next topic of conversation. There's no deal yet reached in Congress on a new stimulus package, and that is as that federal boost, that $600 weekly boost that people who were getting unemployment benefits and also people who were getting those expanded pandemic unemployment benefits, that became no longer in effect as of this week. Now, President Donald Trump did offer a sort of Band-Aid situation. He wanted to temporarily extend that $600 unemployment benefit, but Democrats rejected that. They said that the White House is not grasping the severity of this situation. They don't want a Band-Aid. They want a comprehensive solution. They want aid to state and local governments. They want help for the poor. They want funding for schools and colleges to address the pandemic. Now, the sticking point for Republicans has been liability protection for businesses, particularly a sticking point for Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. Not so much for the White House. The White House said that they like this idea, but it's not necessarily their priority. White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany specifically said when she was asked about the liability protection issue that that was a question for Mitch McConnell. Now, McConnell said he won't bring legislation to a vote in the Senate if it doesn't include liability protection. What this liability protection is it's protection for businesses so that their employees and also patrons can't sue them if they do become infected with COVID-19 as a result of being on the premises, as a result of working. McConnell says, we're not negotiating over liability protection. We're not negotiating with Democrats over that. Now, there will be more talk today and over the weekend between both Democrats and Republicans and representatives from the Trump administration, from the White House, but the Senate has already been adjourned for the weekend. They were adjourned yesterday, so there's not a vote coming today. Now, because there's a delay in the way people get paid unemployment benefits, you don't get paid immediately for that week. You have to file at the end of the week for the next week in most cases. That's certainly the case here in the state of Ohio. It's possible that they could do something next week that would be retroactive to this week. So whatever they decide with that federal unemployment boost, whether they're going to drop it down to $200 like the Republicans want, whether they're going to keep it at $600 like the Democrats and apparently the White House want, they could do something with that next week that could be retroactive back to this week. So it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to lose out on those benefits just yet, but it's still very much up in the air. So keep that in mind. Bringing it back here to Ohio, when we want to take a look at the number of counties who are at a level 3 red alert, there are currently 13 counties at a level 3 red alert. That in Northeast Ohio includes Cuyahoga, Medina, and Erie counties. Now, to remind you, the level 3 red alert under DeWine's alert system means very high exposure and spread for COVID-19, and people should limit their activities as much as possible and follow all current health orders. It also calls for a decrease in in-person interaction with others, to consider only necessary travel, and to limit attending gatherings. Here is some crucial information. Governor Mike DeWine tweeted this yesterday. Beginning this week, all of the indicator data that they use to determine those alert levels for all 88 counties in Ohio will be on the coronavirus dashboard at coronavirus.ohio.gov. Now, if you remember, back when DeWine introduced this public health alert system, he said there were 7 indicators that will determine the level of alert. Those indicators include things like the new cases on a daily and weekly basis, hospital and ICU occupancy, and also where the cases are coming from, whether they're coming from large groups or if they're coming from person-to-person interactions or that kind of thing. So, in the spirit of complete transparency, all of that is now available at coronavirus.ohio.gov, so you can go there, you can select your county, you can see how your county is shaping up when it comes to that alert. All right, in just a moment, we're going to bring in our 3 News sports analyst, Ben Axelrod. It's only been a week that Major League Baseball has been back, and we have definitely been hearing about COVID-19 cases. We do now know that the St. Louis Cardinals game will be postponed due to COVID-19 cases testing positive. Here's the thing. The Cards played the Minnesota Twins last week, and Cleveland is there right now. So there's lots of potential exposure for our guys. We're going to bring in Ben Axelrod right now to talk us through all of that. And right now. Hi, Ben. Thanks for joining us here on 3 News Now today.
Hey, thanks for having me, Stephanie.
Man, there is a lot going on in Major League Baseball and something that's going to potentially impact us here in Cleveland. What is going on with the St. Louis Cardinals and the Twins?
Yeah, so, really this story dates back to earlier this week on Monday. It came out a handful of Miami Marlins tested positive for the coronavirus over the course of their first series with the Philadelphia Phillies in Philadelphia. That number actually wound up getting all the way up to 18 as of today. 18 Miami Marlins have tested positive. You think about that, there's 30 players on the roster. Obviously, that's a handful. Yesterday, it came out that a couple of Philadelphia Philly staffers tested positive for the coronavirus. No players have on Philadelphia, but because the staffers did, they wound up postponing games this weekend. So you already had, because of the Marlins, because of the Phillies, you already had 2 series postponed beginning here on Friday. And then it comes out this Friday morning that 2 St. Louis Cardinals have tested positive. They were scheduled to face the Milwaukee Brewers tonight and throughout the weekend. Their game tonight, at least, has been postponed. I don't know. I guess they say they're going to play a doubleheader tomorrow. I don't know how they're going to get back on the field as quickly as tomorrow when they're just learning about 2 positive tests on the team. But how this relates to the Indians is the St. Louis Cardinals were last playing the Minnesota Twins in Minnesota on Wednesday. The Indians, obviously, as recently as yesterday and throughout the weekend, are playing the Twins in Minnesota. So that's the same visiting clubhouse that the Cardinals were in. So, really, I mean, this kind of goes to the big problem that baseball is facing is right now, as far as players are concerned, you only have 2 teams with positive tests in the Marlins and the Cardinals. But really, you look at these teams moving on from playing one team to playing the next. Right now, you have at least 3 games that are postponed tonight, and a lot of questions about if the Indians and Twins are going to be playing their game on Friday night in Minnesota.
Sure. And so you talk about this happening, this kind of the first instance we knew about this last week was with the Marlins and the Phillies. So that had a ripple effect, right? The Marlins delayed their home opener against the Orioles. The Yankees couldn't go to Philly to play that game right away. So what happened there was the Orioles and the Yankees actually met up for kind of an impromptu game here. Is that something we might see here? Does the Cleveland baseball team end up playing the Brewers here? Is that what we might see?
I mean, it's all in play. They're really making this thing up as they go. The Marlins schedule since Monday has been paused through Sunday, and even people, Miami's mayor has come out and said, well, they still need to quarantine for 14 days before they play again in Miami. They're really just making this up as they go. So, yeah, as you look at the scheduling and the way that it's AL Central teams only playing other AL Central and NL Central teams, because right now the Cardinals are in the NL Central, I mean, all these series you could theoretically swap out. Where it gets tricky, though, is this is only a 60-game season. I mean, they right now they are a week into the season that's only going to last truly a handful of weeks. So, the Marlins missing a full week here, and if they make it up, or how they're going to use this for determining playoff records and things of that nature, they like I said, they really are just making it up as they go.
Well, too, and you talk about the fact that the Cardinals were in the visiting clubhouse in Minnesota, which is where Cleveland is right now. They've already played a game. It's really possible that the damage has already been done. Cleveland could have already been exposed. So you think about, geez, I mean, if they do play the Brewers, we're maybe even opening that up to another team.
Yeah, I mean, that's really the tricky part about all of this is that incubation period. Like I mentioned with the Marlins, their first players, I think, tested positive on Saturday or Sunday, and we're still learning about positive tests on that roster that's been quarantining since then on Thursday and on Friday. So for the Cardinals, for them to come out today and just announce 2 positive tests, you hate to say that you think that means more are coming, but odds are this probably isn't the end of it.
Oh, I think we may have Oh, you're back. Okay, we lost you for a second. So you were saying that you think this is probably not the end of it.
Yeah, it's because the incubation period and to announce positive tests on Friday, you would think more are coming throughout how baseball handles this moving forward, because we know about this incubation period and how really, like I said, teams are asked to quarantine for really 2 weeks.
And let's take a conversation very quickly about, we've talked about how it was just wild in these over 100 pages of documents. There was no real procedure in place for if there is a positive test. Now we talk about the fact, is there any procedure in place for missed games when it comes to who will be in the playoffs? Because right now, Cleveland is tied for the best record in baseball with 5-2.
Yeah, they're truly making this up as they go. Like I said, with the Marlins, that they're missing a week of their season. It's hard to imagine they're going to be able to make up this entire week in what will probably wind up being longer than a full week. So right now they're saying it's going to be based on winning percentage, which actually gets a little screwy because the Marlins, they're 2-1. So right now they have a pretty good winning percentage, and that's from not having played over the course of the week. Now, obviously, they're going to wind up playing more games, you would think, but they don't have really a true procedure, or at least nothing set in stone. They can add in winning percentage and they can adjust over the course of time. But as far as, we're talking here on July 31st, what this thing is going to look like on September 30th when the playoffs start, that's 2 months of them really probably just changing their protocols and changing how they do this.
And it's only been a week. It's only been a week that Major League Baseball is back. It's a short season, but we have a long road between now and the end of September for sure.
And that's what's, the Marlins stuff that came out on Sunday and Monday. That's 2 or 3 days into the season. You look at the way the NBA is handling this with their bubble down in Orlando, and they now have had 2 consecutive rounds of no positive tests of all their players and of everybody in the bubble. It's hard to imagine baseball is going to be able to sustain this without adjusting some sort of protocol for players basically being on their own when they're not at the ballpark and at the facilities. And, they can encourage things. They can say, we don't want you going out. We don't want you doing this or that. But the reality is these guys are going to be around their families. These guys are going to be exposed potentially to the coronavirus. And once one guy gets exposed, we've seen that's all it takes to really infect most of a locker room.
Oh, man. And not to go totally off on a tangent here, but a lot of these guys have kids. We're talking about schools reopening, kids going to schools, and that's a whole nother story when we get into September. Lots to think about. Wow. So do we know anything right now about Cleveland's plans in Minnesota?
As of 12:18 p.m., I haven't heard anything. I haven't seen anything. There's been speculation about it just because you would think you want all the Minnesota Twins now to go through some sort of round of testing and get those results back before they take the field again. But we haven't heard anything as far as the delay just yet.
All right. Well, we'll definitely be keeping an eye on your Twitter feed at Ben Axelrod on WKYC.com and the WKYC app so that we can stay as up to date as possible. We know as soon as we have that information, you'll have it for us. Thanks for joining us on 3 News Now, Ben. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Stephanie.
All right. We say goodbye to Ben Axelrod today, and now we have one more story to share with you before we let you go today. There is a conversation streaming today with the City Club of Cleveland and Cleveland Cavaliers leadership. This is a conversation on social justice, racial equality, and what the Cavaliers are doing to try to create positive change. That's at 12:30 p.m. today. Of course, we'll have that on WKYC.com and our WKYC app. Here's a fact for you. 85% of the NBA players are black, and the Cavaliers are only one of 2 NBA teams with both a black head coach and a black general manager. So representation is definitely something that we can expect to hear about in this conversation. But the conversation will extend beyond basketball with insight from the Cavaliers leadership. The people that you'll hear from are Kobe Altman, general manager of the Cavs, JV Bickerstaff, head coach of the Cavs, Kevin Clayton, Vice President of Diversity, Inclusion, and Community Engagement for the Cavs. This event is called All for One, Cavs Leadership on Racial Justice and Professional Sports. And we will have that on all of our platforms for you. That's it for you today for our Morning 3 News Now update. I'll see you back here right after 3 p.m. with everything you need to know here in Northeast Ohio. I'm Stephanie Haney.